All right, hello magical friends and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am going to do this update video or just kind of fact video answering your questions about my time in Australia. If you don't know who I am or if you're new to this channel, my name is Brittany. I'm an American living in Australia. I've been here for about 10 months now and I'm actually leaving in 2 days, so I have to do this video now before I leave. I polled you guys on Instagram and asked you guys what questions you would like me to answer in a video like this, and you guys gave me some great talking points, so I'm going to jump off of those. I'm going to add some things as well about questions that I had before I came to Australia that I can now answer for myself. If you like this Australia video, be sure to check out the Australia playlist I have on my channel. I've pretty much documented my journey since I've arrived, and I do have some exciting travels coming up as well, so be sure to subscribe to get notified of those. All right, now to answer the question. So, most interesting thing you learned while traveling. It's funny you have to be abroad to realize this, but just the way the world looks at America, or the way Americans are viewed. Obviously, we have our own problems, and you can see that very well even at home. But when you step out of it, you see how awesome America is and how the world views Americans in a fairly positive way. Like, again, I can't deny that we have our own problems. However, we do have a lot of really good things going for us. And I think, you know, if you're living there and staying there, you take it all for granted and you don't really realize it in comparison to other places, other countries, even in Australia. I'm not saying like America versus third world countries. I mean like America versus any other country out there. Would I do it again or change something? I would definitely do a working holiday visa again. I am attempting that. I'm lodging my application next week or so, and I'm going to hopefully come back in January. What I am going to do differently though is I am not going to be picky about what kind of jobs I apply for. So I did, graduate from university and have all these certs and stuff, so I really thought I should get a job in my field, but I ended up wasting time for that. So when I come back the second time, I'm just going to apply for any job I can get. Food service, because I'm probably gonna end up working in food service anyway. All right, favorite Australian food. I still don't know what Australian cuisine is, but I really like pavlova and Anzac cookies. Did not like Vegemite. You can go watch the video of Halada and I trying Vegemite, and also the other Australian candies that we tried together. Best memory. So I am talking about my personal experience. I'm gonna share a personal story and then just an Australia specific story. I think my best personal memory regarding Australia is when I first arrived in Melbourne, and first thing I did was look for Gab, my boyfriend. Like, I was walking to his workplace intending to meet him on his work break, and we had been separated for at least 3 to 4 months by that time, and before that another 3 months separated. So this was, like our reunion after, most of the year apart. And I remember, like, when I finally met up with him, it was just like this magical, like, now we get to be together. And that's the reason I came to Australia, was to be with my boyfriend. If you don't know our story, he's Italian and I'm an American, and it's hard to get long-term visas to either country, so we just came to Australia and got a year-long visa, no problem. But personal stories aside, I guess my favorite Australian memory is seeing the Great Barrier Reef, both snorkeling and from the sky, and seeing kangaroos on the beach at Cape Hillsborough. I think that was like just iconic Australian experience. Favorite thing about Australia, I'm gonna say the animals, just because they're just, everyone thinks about kangaroos and koalas and snakes and stuff, but there's just a lot of really odd animals that you just kind of find walking around. You don't hear about them, they're not famous or iconic, but they are wild and crazy, and it's magical to see them. Like the cassowary, I've seen so many cassowaries since I've been here in Queensland. The possum, which is not like a North American possum. Like, these possums, they climb and they look like cats or monkeys, depending on the lighting. Echidnas, pandy melons, and wallabies. Now, you hear about wallabies, but I didn't know wallaby was like basically a baby kangaroo. Bandicoot, I remember the first time I saw a bandicoot, I didn't know what it was. Like, I had never seen anything like that. I never heard of anything that looked like this animal. It looked like a rabbit rat hybrid thing. And I remember when I tried to find out what it was, I was Googling like mammals in North Queensland and just kind of scrolling and hoping I like figured it out. So animals are definitely my favorite part, but I also love how stunning Australia is. And the same thing with the animals, it's just stunning, it's wild, it's crazy, but also all of this is normal. Like, this is normal life for Australians or people in Australia. Like, they don't bat an eye when they see like a possum or a kangaroo. I mean, kangaroos are still a big deal, but it's not like, oh my gosh, let me stop and take a picture every time. It's stunning, but it's also normal. So I think that's just something that I really like about this place. How doable is it for someone who's interested in traveling? And I'm assuming this question is about the work and holiday visa or just picking up and moving to another country for a long time. If you can manage your commitments at home, it is very doable. I think a lot of people, especially Americans, don't travel because they have so many commitments at home. Usually you're still in school or you've just graduated from school and you have this obligation to work in your field, whether that's, to please people or to pay off loans. Like you have like an obligation to work, or you have some kind of contract that you have to take care of. And then the other thing that I think would keep a lot of people from traveling is relationships and, family as well, but I think also romantic relationships. If you're about my age, you're kind of like, you may or may not be like getting into like a more serious romantic relationship at this point. So if you want to travel long term, and you have that relationship, you have to consider what you're going to do with the relationship. You can bring the person along, which is a whole nother can of worms for them. You could do it long distance, which isn't fun but doable if you want to have your travel and your relationship, or you can break up. So that's obviously a personal thing as well. But I think if you can, really figure out those two things, it really comes down to a personal, what do you want to do? But I will remind you that you can always get a job when you get back home. However, if you stay there and you get a job, you're probably going to start making payments on a house or a car or getting into a relationship with a person who will also have their own commitments with, paying stuff off, and it's going to be extremely hard for you to get up and leave for more than 3 months at a time. So I really encourage you, if you're young, even if you do have a job and you do have payments, if you're at the beginning of that, see if you can just travel now. Like I said, you can always come back to a job and a house and a car. But if you get those things first, it's going to be very hard to leave and have your own gap year or long-term travel adventure. Basically, if you're young, go. How different is Australia from the USA? In my opinion, not very much. Sometimes I didn't feel like I was even traveling. I felt like I just was dealing with all these issues that you would deal with if you're a non-native, but I didn't get the benefit of being in a completely different culture, a completely different atmosphere. However, I'm still planning on coming back, so it wasn't that big of a deal in the end. I will say though, Australians are definitely nicer and safer people. Australia is definitely more international. I know America likes to, talk about ourselves as like a melting pot, and we kind of are, but Australia has really adopted and integrated having people traveling and coming in and out. And certain Australians have problems with it, but in general, Australia is so much more friendly. That's why Gab and I are here, so that we could be together, and they just kind of a little bit more welcoming, and there's a lot more support for foreigners. Best part of Australia, I think I answered this, but it's just wild and beautiful. Things are bizarre and crazy and exotic, but it's just such a normal part of being here that I love seeing beautiful sights and telling myself this is normal, this is part of your everyday life. Biggest difference between Australians and Americans, I guess this is people specific, but again, Australians are a little bit more polite and nicer. Not that Americans are rude, and I have had my handful of rude Australians come into my daily life. However, they're just in general just more easygoing, and you think how laid back they are, and they're just kind of easygoing, taking life as it goes. I feel like every Australian has a little surfer in them. So those are questions my friends had for me. These are questions that I had for myself before I came to Australia, and now I get to answer them. I would love to contribute to all the Google searching you people are doing on your working and holiday visa. So what do people think of backpackers, or what do Australians think of backpackers? So obviously backpackers are foreigners. They're not Australian, but they are part of Australia. Obviously the individuals are transient, but they're just this permanent backpacker culture. Wherever you go in big cities, or even here, I'm out in a rural part of Australia, it's just, the people move in and out, but the backpacker culture is here to stay. So I think people generally like backpackers. Is it easy or hard to get a job? I would say yes, it is very easy to get a job if you're not picky about the jobs that you do. And that is a mistake that I made when I first got here. I really wanted to get into the specific field that I got my degree in, but I ended up wasting time, and I should have just started applying for food service jobs because that's where I ended up anyway. So when you get here, if you're planning on coming here, just start applying aggressively for any job that you can get. Probably food service. I feel like backpackers just always end up serving you food. You may have to fib about your experience. I don't think I've met anybody who hasn't had to fib about their work experience in order to get a job here, so I guess that's normal. Not that I'm telling you to lie, but I'm just letting you know about the working climate here. Sub jobs, maybe cash in hand as well, but obviously try to get a legit job. Is Australia expensive? Yes. Even if you convert Australian dollars back into your home currency, I still find things to be fairly expensive. However, you also get paid more. So I think it all kind of works out in the end. For example, I was getting paid 20 Australian dollars to serve slushies out of a food truck, and that converts down to 14 US dollars, which minimum wage in Florida is $8. So to make $14 selling slushies is crazy. Okay, my biggest question when applying for the working holiday visa is the sufficient funds question. So when you apply for your Australian visa, you have to prove that you have money to get by. I think this is 5,500 Australian dollars. I actually called them because I was really confused about this, but I literally ended up just sending them a screenshot of my mobile banking app with the money, and it got approved. It actually got approved instantly. So they didn't even look at any of the things that I wrote down, as long as all the correct boxes were checked off. But that's what I did for my sufficient funds. So I think we'll be okay. I know this was a huge question that I had, so I wanted to answer that for you here. And that is all I want to say, or I have to say at the moment, about my time here in Australia. Just answering questions. There's actually a whole lot of things that I could say, but in order to condense it, I just did it in a Q&A format, and I hope I answer lots of questions. And yeah, I'm moving on to my next set of adventures next week. So if you have any comments, questions, or things you want me to talk about again about Australia, be sure to let me know below. I'll probably reply because I think I'm going to be done filming about Australia for a while anyway. But I wanted to thank you so much for watching this video and taking the time even to make it here at the end. Don't forget to like this video if you liked it. I hope you liked it if you're still here. Subscribe if you want to see more from me. Comment to add to the discussion, and I will see you in the next video. Have a happier, healthier, and more magical day. Bye.